Hi everyone, it's time for lesson 2. Let me just remind you what we talked about in the previous lesson. We went over the different price arrays, open, high, low, close, that you can use by just typing O for the open, H for the high, L for the low, C for the close, and then we talked a little bit about the moving average function. I said I would use some of the questions that come up on the forum, and based on what I've seen on the forum lately, we're going to talk about the reference function and talk about the MACD. So as you can see, we're still doing really basic stuff, but those functions are really the base of what you need to learn. And when I say those functions, the reference function and the MACD function, and understanding how MACD is done, and etc. So I've already got a chart open of IBM, and I've also have the post I want to look at open, so I'm just going to click on this one. Here's a post from G. Stockman. Sorry. Let me just copy this and go into Metastock, and I'll click on Tools, Indicator Builder, and I'm going to click on New. I'm going to call it Stockman. Alright, Control V right there, paste the formula, just click on OK, I'm pretty sure it's right, close it. Again, always close it, then apply it, then edit it again. Much easier. You know what, let's take a look at his indicator and see what it plots. Okay, so apparently this indicator is true, not true very often. So it is a little picky. Let's close up the inner window here so we can have more room, and then let's edit the formula. Alright, so you can see here you've got ref of C, which is the close, so ref of the close minus 5 greater than ref of the close minus 4, and ref of the close minus 4 greater than ref of the close minus 3, and etc. So the function is really ref, open parenthesis, data array, comma, periods, close parenthesis. Now, data array could be anything. Here we're just talking about price arrays like the open, high, low, close, but it could be a moving average there. I could do a reference of a moving average. It's also called a horizontal displacement or a horizontal delay. And then periods, the number of periods I want to go back or forward. So if I want to go backwards, I'm going to put a negative periods here, and if I want to go forward, I'm going to use a positive period. So let's say I wanted the close value of 3 bars ago. I would say ref, open parenthesis, C for the close, comma, and I said I wanted 3 bars ago, so I'm going to say minus 3. So that is going to give me just this formula that's highlighted here. You know what, I'll just get rid of that for now. So ref of C comma minus 3 is going to give me the close value of 3 periods ago. So if I'm looking at a daily chart, 3 days ago. If I'm looking at a weekly chart, 3 weeks ago, and so on. Okay? We're talking about periodicity here. It's not a specific amount of minutes, days, weeks. It's whatever periodicity you're using on your chart. Now, a lot of people make the mistake when they write formulas to forget the minus sign here. So if you ever come up with a formula that gives you great results, you backtest it and you use the expert advisor and everything looks great, the first thing to look for is 1, make sure you're not using the zigzag function. And second, make sure you didn't forget one of those minus signs in one of your reference functions. Usually when I come up with a good formula, I make sure I didn't use a zigzag or a pick or a trough function improperly, and that I didn't use a what we call the positive reference, a reference in the future. Because if I write ref open parenthesis C comma 3, I'm telling the software to give me the value of the close in 3 days from now. So if I write a formula that says reference of close comma 1 greater than C, and I'm telling the software to buy every time tomorrow's close is greater than today's close. I'm never going to be wrong, but it's not possible. If it was possible, then there would be, no point in trading. Is there a time where you can use a positive reference? Some advanced programmers might use them for a reason or another. At our level, and even at my level, I never want to see a positive reference. If you use a positive reference, you've done something wrong. Let me just type in reference of close comma minus 3. Let me just click on OK, and let me explain one important part of the Metastock programming language. And let me just zoom in here. Oops, wrong button. Alright, let me just zoom in the chart. And let's assume that I'm trying to create a formula that's going to find this pattern here. So let me just zoom in a little more. Okay, let's assume I want to create a formula that will find this pattern where I've got a higher low on the left, lower low in the middle, and a higher low on the right. So that 3-bar pattern. Most people would be focused on that middle bar right here. In Metastock, you've got to train yourself to write your formula from the bar you want to find at the time you want to find it, because I can't find this 3-bar pattern here. I've got to wait till this bar to be able to define that pattern. So when you write a formula, always make sure that you're placing yourself on the last bar of the pattern, on the last bar of your condition, on the last bar of your trend line, or whatever you're looking for. Make sure you're always placing yourself on the last bar of data you need to be able to recognize that signal or that pattern or that trend, etc., etc. To give you an example, let me just edit this indicator. Alright, let's go to the formula. A lot of people, for example, to find this 3-bar pattern here, are going to write, I want the low to be less than the next low, so reference of low comma minus 1, and I want the low of yesterday comma minus 1. I want the low of yesterday to be greater than the low of the bar. So, and you know what, they would usually just write it like this because it seemed chronological to them, and it just made sense. So here's what they do. Reference of L minus 1, which is this bar, reference of the low minus 1, okay, so it's minus 1 from this bar, is greater than the low, okay, so this one is greater than the low here, and the low here is less than the low of the next bar. So that's correct. It will, if I click on apply and then I click on OK, it does find my bar right here. That's the bar I was looking for, or that's the pattern I was looking for. Problem is, I wouldn't get the signal until that bar came through. One trick or one tip you should know when you're working on formulas and you want to test their validity. Like I said, I'm always looking for zigzag, reference, and the futures. One of the things I do to test expert advisors and indicators is I find a signal like this one in the past, then I come down to the x-axis, I right click on it. Actually, first I need to find out what the date on this is. So the date on this is 4/21, right? The date on this signal is 4/20. For that signal on 4/20 to be valid, it means that if I only add data to 4/20, I would still get the signal. So let me just change my, I need to change my loaded date to 4/20. So I'll go here 4, then 20, 2005. Last displayed date can't be greater than my last loaded date, so I adjust that one. Then I click on apply. Now if I click on apply and close this, first of all, I don't have anything on my chart, but let me zoom out. And now look at this. Remember how I had my indicator plotting a 1 right here? My indicator doesn't plot anything. So that's a proof for me that my formula is not built properly. So just, keep that in mind. Every time you create an indicator and you want to test that it's valid, you're kind of afraid that it's too good to be true. Just change your loaded period's amount of data to the date of your signal. If your signal disappears, you've got a problem. Alright, so let's load our data back, or at least that extra bar right there. I'm going to change it to 421 here as well. Click on apply. Click on close. Okay. So let me just change this formula. So here now, instead of placing myself from this bar, I place myself from this bar. So what do I want? I want the low of this bar to be greater than this bar, right? So I'm just going to say I want the low value, LOW or L, greater than reference of the low, comma, -1. -1 meaning the previous period. Go back one period. Go one period back. -1. Make sure you always have your minus there. So low greater than reference of low -1 is going to take care of that part here, where my low is greater than reference -1. Now I also need this low here to be less than this low here. So this is reference of low -1, so this is going to become reference of low -2. So I'm just going to add and low, or I'm sorry, reference of low -1 -1. So reference of low -1 right here is less than reference of low, so L -2. And low -2 is this bar right here. Okay, let's close the parentheses here. Let's click on apply to make sure it works. Let's click on close. So now I'm getting the signal here. You see my indicator became a 1. Remember that if you're putting a condition, it's always going to plot a 0 or a 1. 1 when it's true and 0 when it's false. So here it's telling me that my condition is true and that my pattern was found. And I've got this pattern right here. Now let's I guess I could adjust the data, but since I don't have anything else loaded, I can tell that it's already accurate. But let's just load a little more, maybe find another signal and then double check that signal. Let's do this. Let's find another one and double check it. So let's click on close. Let's zoom out. Wow, there's plenty of those, huh? Alright, let's pick this one here. So here we got a signal. It was on March 21st, 2005. So I'll come down here, right click on the x-axis, go to x-axis properties. I'll change the last displayed date and the last loaded date. Make sure to change both of them. I think it was March 21st, 2005. So I'll just click on apply, click on close, and you see I still have my signal. My signal didn't disappear, so I know my formula is correct. So really what's important here is that the reference function allows you to go back in a data array and grab different values. I could say reference of the close of 100 periods ago. I don't really know what the point of that would be, but that's what I could do. So let's go back to the formula that was posted on the forum. So let me just copy it again. And here I offered to write it differently. Everything is correct because here you see you've got the reference function, the data array, and then minus whatever amount of periods you want to go back. And that is correct. But here's one trick that I want to point out. You see how all those functions are the same? I mean, here what I'm really saying is I want the close 3 days ago to be greater than the close 2 days ago, and I want the close 4 days ago to be greater than the close 3 days ago, and I want the close 5 days ago to, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. You want, here what that means is you want the close to be consecutively greater than the next close for 3 periods, right? So do I need to write it out like that? Let's just cut this part. Then we'll take a look at the rest. So I'm just going to do Control-C, go over to Notepad. I use Notepad quite a lot because I'm not limited by what I can view. I can write some long codes and then just copy back and forth. It works out easier, especially with more complex formulas. But anyway, let's take a look at this. So here what I'm really doing is I'm saying, okay, I want the close to be greater than reference, so I want it to be greater than the one after that. So close comma 1, right? So close greater than reference of close comma 1. And like I said, we never want to do it going forward. We want to go backwards. So what I'm going to do is I want the close to be less than the close, the previous one, right? So C less than reference of close minus 1. Does that make sense? So here what I'm saying is I want the close 5 periods ago to be greater than the close 4 periods ago, which is about similar as saying I want the close greater than the next close. So here I'm going to say C less than close minus 1. Now I want this to happen 3 times in a row, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sum function. Let me just delete this. The sum function allows me to add an array over X amount of periods. The syntax, let me just go down. The syntax of a sum function is sum, open parenthesis, data array, comma, periods. If I wrote sum 1, comma 10, oops. If I wrote sum 1, comma 10, it would return 10 because it would add 1 for 10 periods, right? Now, if I do sum of C less than ref close minus 1, sum of C, let's go to the end, close minus 1 over 3 periods. So I'm saying every time C is less than the reference of C, you know what, let's just make it simple. So every time the close value is less than the previous close, add 1, and every time it's not, add 0. And I'm saying to do that for 3 periods. So guess what? If the close goes down for 3 periods in a row, that array right here that's highlighted is going to be equal to 3. Equal 3. So sum of C less than reference C, comma minus 1, comma 3 equals 3. Every time you're going to have consecutive conditions, you want to think about the sum function. Let's talk about something else. I mean, if you wanted to say, I want the sum of the price for the last 3 days to be going up, you would say sum C greater than ref of C, comma minus 1, comma 3, close parenthesis equals 3. So if you're looking for X consecutive conditions to be true, always remember this. Sum, the condition you're looking to be consecutive, comma, the number of times you want it to be consecutive for, equals the number of time you want it to be consecutive for. Because here I can substitute any condition. Let me just write it here. See, we'll make sure we agree on that. Sum any condition, comma, x periods. So the amount of time you want that condition to be true for consecutively equals x periods. So if you ever want to know, hey, I want this condition to be true 10 times, or for 10 days, or for 10 periods, how do I do this? Just grab the condition and wrap the sum, comma, periods equals periods. Alright, let me just close this. Alright, so I did say sum c less than reference c, comma, minus 1, comma, 3 equals 3, but that only takes care of our first three lines. I still have to worry about those lines. So let me just copy those lines and add them. So we know that this first line is correct, so I'm just going to say end, and then I'll paste that. Guess what? This is the next two lines are the exact same thing. It's the same condition, except it's reversed, and it's only for 2 periods. So I'm going to say sum, and this time I want the current value to be greater than the previous one. So it's going to be sum c greater than reference of c, comma, minus 1. So it's pretty much the opposite of what we did earlier, except that we want it for 2 periods, right? So comma 2 equals 2, and then let's just c greater than reference of h minus 5. Reference of h minus 5 is the high of 5 bars ago. Alright, now I've simplified the formula, but that doesn't look correct, because I've simplified the condition itself, but I haven't respected the timeline. If you look at the original formula here, I'm using bar 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I'm using the current bar and the previous bar. Now let me just go back to my notepad. So here for this condition, I want this condition is current, so I don't have to change anything. Now the other condition, I've got to delay it 2 bars because I'm looking for those 2 conditions before I'm looking for those 3 consecutive. So I'm going to have to do a reference of this condition. So I'm doing a reference of this condition, comma, minus 2. Now I've simplified the code a little bit, and I might have confused you for it, but let's just double check and make sure that I'm right. Let me just copy this formula. Let's close this one. That's the original, and we called it Stockman. So let's click on OK, and let's make a new one. Tools, Indicator Builder, and then we'll do you know what, let's just do a copy, and I'll call it Stockman check. And here I'll just erase this formula and I'll paste my own in there. And then let's just apply it. First, let's apply it on a separate window, but you can already tell that they're exactly the same. Now let me just drag and drop it, and you can't tell that there's 2 indicators. So those 2 formulas are exactly the same. And what I'll do is I'll copy and paste this formula, and I'll post it right here so that you guys can take a look at it. Does it matter whether we write it out? Not really. I mean, in this case, we didn't really save much time or much effort by combining the conditions and using the sum function, but it could come in handy, especially when you have to write out a lot of formulas. And it allowed us to go over the reference function. So again, you can reference anything, just make sure you use a minus sign in your periods. The most important thing to remember is when you write your indicator or your expert advisor is that you place yourself on the last bar of data and then create your indicator backwards from there. Alright, that was it for the reference function. You can read more about it in the Metastock manual. Now let's talk about the MACD indicator. Let me just come back here to this post. Alright, I get a lot of questions about MACD. How can I adjust my MACD indicator to 6 and 12 periods? Alright, let me just copy this. And you know what, let's keep the notepad because we'll need it. So let me just post a request here. Alright, so let's assume I know what a moving average is, but I don't know what an MACD indicator is. I'll take a look online, and most technical analysis book will tell you an MACD is a 12-period exponential moving average minus a 26-period exponential moving average. Usually the signal line is a 9-period average of the MACD. So let's first start talking about the MACD itself. In Metastock, you've got a function called MACD. It's MACD open close parentheses. If you type this in your indicator builder, which we're actually going to do right now, let me go back here, formula, MACD. If I just type in MACD and then click on OK, I've got an MACD indicator right there. Let me just remove the other indicator we were working on. Which one is that? Apparently I kept a check. Okay, let me just highlight this, delete it. So if I just type in MACD open close parentheses and click on OK, it plots the MACD. Now for people out there that want to create explorations based on the MACD, usually people look for a MACD greater than 0 or an MACD greater than its moving average, or what people call their signal line, and the signal line is usually the 9-period moving average on top of the MACD. Now there's different ways you can do that. Remember how we talked about the moving average function. So if I wanted the MACD greater than its 9-period moving average, I would write moving average, open parentheses. Remember here I'm supposed to type in the data array, so I can just type in MACD again. The MACD open close parentheses returns the MACD value, so it's a data array. Then I want 9 for the 9 period, and then E for exponential, and then close it. If I click on apply, it says if MACD greater than its moving average of 9 period, plot a 1, if false, plot a 0. Now would you use that as a signal as on an expert advisor or a system tester or even an indicator? No, because every time the MACD is greater than the moving average, it's going to plot a 1. That's why you see we've got those flat tops right there for, you know, a period of a month or 2 months. So if you want just to be alerted, like if you want to create an exploration for those signals, but you only want to be alerted the first time the condition is true, replace the greater than sign by the cross function. Let me just write out the indicator. Cross MACD, and then close parentheses here. Let me just click on apply. You'll see that the indicator hasn't changed much. The only thing it did is it just removed all those extra signals. Now it only plots in 1 the first time the MACD crosses above. Now the cross function is just cross value, comma value 1 or value 2. Now let's just take a look at the second line, and let's plot it over here right under my MACD. When I say cross value 1 comma value 2, I'm asking the software to tell me when value 1 crosses above value 2. Alright? Now, if I wanted the opposite, I would write cross value 2 comma value 1. That means that value 2 crosses above value 1. A lot of people after this ask me, okay, how do I tell when value 1 is going below value 2? Guess what? If value 2 is crossing above value 1, it's the same thing as if you were saying that value 1 crossed below value 2. Just remember that the second value is the one crossing below, the first value is the one crossing above. Alright, let's just delete this. And then let's go back to Metastock. Alright, so if I say cross MACD comma moving average of MACD comma 9 comma E, will give me my signal. Now the Metastock MACD function uses a 12 period exponential moving average minus a 26 period moving average. Let's just double check that again. Let's just make sure that Metastock does it properly. Remember, I can put a semicolon at the end of one line of code to plot another line after that. So right now I'm saying plot the MACD and then plot whatever code I'm going to write. So I'm saying that the MACD is a moving average of the close over 12 periods exponential. So moving average of the close, here highlighted, then over 12 periods, and then E for exponential, close parenthesis, minus moving average of the close, comma 26, comma E. You see here, I typed in MOV in caps and typed in MOV in half lowercase and, you know, half uppercase. It doesn't matter at all. Let's just click on apply. Then click on close. And I'm wrong. The reason I'm wrong is because the moving average used in the MACD are actually percentages moving average, which are almost equivalent to 12 and 26, but not exactly. That's why there's a little difference. We could go over the different percentages and how they work. We don't really have time for that right now, so if you don't mind, let's just take my word that 12 and 26 are pretty much what most people use as their MACD, even though that's not completely and exactly true. Let me just delete this and let's go back to the previous question that was posted. So you want to adjust the MACD indicator to 6 and 12. Alright, so the only thing I have to do is, instead of using a 12 period moving average, which we already know how to do, I'll just use a 6 period moving average and then a 12 period moving average. Okay, now if I click on apply, it plots my moving average of 6 and 12. That works great, but if I plot the MACD straight from Metastock, let's do this, let's apply this MACD. You see here it says signal line period 9, and when I apply it directly, it plots this nice little signal line with my chart, and I want that. Alright, so the signal line is usually just another moving average of the MACD, correct? Here there's different ways you can do it. You could do a moving average of that, you could reapply it, you could do many different things. What I like to do is declare a variable, and I want to call it MACD, and I put V here for MACD value, then colon equal, and I come at the end of my line and close my variable. So I've created a variable called MACDV that holds my own custom version of the MACD. Then I'm going to type in MACDV again because I want to plot it, semicolon, and then I want to plot a moving average of that MACDV. So I'm going to write moving average MACDV, comma 9, comma E, close parenthesis, click on apply, click on close, and now when I apply my indicator, it plots two lines. One is the moving average of 6 and 12, and one is its signal line. I unfortunately cannot specify which color I want each one of them to be in the formula language. There's nothing we can do against that, but we can, after the indicator has been applied, just change the color of one of the lines. Okay, so we've learned how to make our own MACD. Now let's talk about the MACD histogram to finish. A lot of people ask about MACD histogram. MACD histogram is just MACD minus its signal line. It's really easy to do. Let me just show you. I'll do MACDV minus, so I'm just removing my extra line right there, and I'm saying, okay, grab my MACD value minus its signal line value, and just click on apply. And it's going to plot this line that goes above and below 0. And usually what people do is they right click on it, select the indicator, go into the properties, change it to histogram, and then they make it look like this. Now let me ask you this, does it matter to you whether or not you're looking for a MACD crossing above its signal line, or whether or not it's crossing above 0 and below 0? I'm sure it is. The end result is the same. I mean, if somebody tells you, ooh, you should use the MACD histogram instead of the regular MACD, you can just laugh at them because it's the exact same thing. It's just a different way of reading it. And a lot of the indicators you'll find out there, and a lot of the articles you'll read about the new great indicator, or the new Stoke RSI, or the new version of the Heller's or Bollinger Bands or whatever, they're usually the exact same indicators. They're just plotted differently, and they might be easier for some people to read than others. To be honest, if I look at this indicator, I can tell when it is going above 0 and below 0 pretty quickly. I mean, if I just plot here a line, okay, here I can tell it went below 0. And here I can quickly tell, okay, the price went above 0. I can quickly recognize that, and to me this is more recognizable than having two lines. Let's just plot the two lines again. So we're just replacing the minus sign here, right, to change it from an MACD histogram to regular MACD. Let's just apply this. Let's click on OK. So for me, the histogram version, oh, I need to change one of them. Let's change this one back to a line. For me, the histogram version is a lot more recognizable. I can quickly say, okay, that's when my signal occurred. That's, that's where I was supposed to get out, or that's where I was supposed to get in. It's more recognizable than looking at those two lines that are kind of going up and down and crossing here and there. Just keep in mind that most of the time those indicators are the same. They're just plotted differently. So don't let yourself be impressed by some buzzword and some fancy names for indicators. Alright, I think I've been over my 20 minutes. I hope this was interesting.